The Your Mark on the World show is made possible by our sponsors, including ACLA Impact, Seed Equity Ventures, and Clean Energy Advisors.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Neetal Parekh, and she is the CEO and founder of Innovate Social and also the author of 51 Questions on Social Entrepreneurship. Neetal, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Devin, great to see you, and thanks for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. It's an honor and a privilege for us. You and I had an opportunity to meet at Sustainatopia when you and I were on a panel together, and I think we had a great discussion that day about impact investing, but I look forward to the discussion we'll have today about social entrepreneurship. Your book offers 51 different insights, and I thought it was great of you to highlight three particular observations about social entrepreneurship that we could talk about today. The first one you mentioned is the legal structures, that there are a variety of legal structures and also business models available to social entrepreneurs today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of my journey kind of informs even the resources that I've created. So my background is in law, but I don't actively practice. So a lot of my lens into the space was started with looking at this fact that there were these new legal structures emerging specifically for companies that are for profit and trying to create social impact. So the Innovate Social started as a blog in 2011 when California was the sixth state looking at adding one of these legal structures to its arsenal as a state. And in that year, it added two, the Benefit Corporation and what is now the Social Purpose Corporation. So one of the things I like to mention when I do workshops and for founders who are thinking of themselves as potentially being social entrepreneurs or being social enterprises is that there are, even from the legal structure starting point, there are ways to structure your company so that impact is not just a nice to have, but it's baked into the essence and the reason, the why behind your company. So that's one thing I always like to mention, that there are 31 states or jurisdictions now have passed some form of benefit corporation, and 4 have some form of social purpose corporation. And there's another structure called the low profit limited liability company, L3C, which just under a dozen states have. So it's just, I always like founders to know that, so when they're meeting with their attorneys, if their attorneys don't bring it up, then they can actually ask about it and do some research on that aspect.
Let's go through each of those. So benefit corporation, social benefit, the social purpose business, and then the low profit
L3C,
limited liability company.
Profit, yep.
L3C. Okay, so let's go through each one just briefly. I know we don't have time to go in depth, but just briefly, what are the key elements and the key distinctions among them?
Yeah. So we can just do 3 for each, so it makes it easier. For benefit corporation, the things I think people should know about is, 1, every state passes its own version of the benefit corporation. So though the title is the same, in reality, the actual state law will differ. So you have to kind of look at that closely. The second thing for the benefit corporation is that there is some kind of social benefit that you're creating. In California, the standard is a material positive impact that you're creating. In Delaware, it's a little different. In other states, it's a little different. But you often have to show and kind of articulate some kind of impact that you're making and some area of impact that you're trying to make. The third thing is accountability and transparency have been a big part of the impetus and ethos behind the law. So depending on the state you're in, there might be different requirements of reporting. So in California, for example, there's an annual reporting and it's a public reporting. So you have to, maybe a lot of companies may think of doing an impact report and posting it to their website. Whereas in Delaware, it's every other year and it's to the shareholders. So those are 3 elements that, as you're thinking about actually looking at the structure, that you can be aware of. And as a 4th bonus, I may just add that one of the reasons for doing a legal structure versus just the certification, such as the B Corp certification, is especially in the cases if you see a potential exit, or so it's some way to kind of add some teeth to your desire to create impact in the long term as well. So whatever happens with your company, that as it grows beyond the group of 2 or 3 founders or whatever into its own, then there's still some protection to really support and continue that impact objective. So that's that. With the social purpose corporation in California, that was first introduced as the flexible purpose corporation. And one of the distinctions, because at that time it was easy to distinguish because there were 2 forms that were up, was that you had to just you had to identify one purpose, like one special purpose within your company. So it could be completely unrelated to the main purpose of your company, or it wasn't like the standard wasn't a material positive. It's just one element would have to be like a social or cause related. So again, each of the states that have that, they're a little bit different. One of the things that we've seen, and that's just over time since that time in 2011, is the benefit corporation has kind of expanded now its network. So there are more states that have a version of that. So even people identify, they might have heard of it a little bit more as well. But really just depending on you, your founders, and what you're thinking about, either of those could be good options. And the third one, the low profit limited liability company, is one of the ones that fascinates me the most, because there is often we think of foundations providing funding to nonprofits, and there's many well-worn paths to do that. But there are mechanisms for foundations to provide funding to for-profits and to social enterprises through program-related investments, PRIs. And there is some due diligence required for that to happen, and that can often be costly and time-consuming. So the idea of the L3C was amazing, to say, how can you structure a company from the get-go that has already kind of met some of those onerous requirements, and make it easier, streamline the process for foundations to be able to actually, to fund social enterprises. So they created this very innovative structure called the L3C for that purpose. The one thing is that it just hasn't been kind of blessed by the federal government to achieve that purpose. So it's kind of, it is valuable, but it is not maybe as streamlined or as useful as that as the founders of that form kind of intended it to be.
Right. Its primary purpose under current law is just to signal an intention to be socially minded, but it doesn't accomplish the PRI objective that it was created for. But fingers crossed, right? Yes. Someday.
Things can always change, so things are always changing in this space. So
yes, and I'm glad you're here to help us keep track of it all. Now, timing, that we're in a pretty unique and optimal time for jumping on these kinds of things.
Yes, so one of the things that's been really fascinating through my work and through the work on the book and the blog is just seeing that there's some shift in consciousness happening that's not just the founders and the entrepreneurs or the Bill Gates of the world who are dedicating their work to social impact, but there's this overall kind of timing situation that is allowing for, I think, social enterprise to kind of gain hold in a different way than before. So we have a lot more millennials entering the workforce, and in 2015, that was the first year millennials made up a majority of the workforce. And with that, as millennials are, surveyed and polled, many of them, the majority of them want to create, use their skills to do good. So that means that kind of then filters down into the kinds of jobs they're looking for and the way that companies recruit talent. And, now showing that there's some mission alignment with the company can be a reason that a person may choose a company over the other. And on the balance, you also have these baby boomers that are starting to retire from their, maybe their career, their tenure of work that they've been doing. And some of them are saying, how do we use our skills and transfer it maybe in starting a business or mentoring or supporting the space? So we're also seeing a lot of that generation say, now we want to turn our efforts and our resources towards social impact. So I think you're seeing that happening on the side of the kind of creators and the engagers. You're also seeing a shift happening on the side of the consumers. More consumers are doing, we have information at our fingertips with all of the different apps and technology available to us. So people are doing more research on the companies that they patron, and they often want to align with companies that not only have great products and services, but that also kind of have an alignment with their values. So I think it's like it's coming from all angles. Plus you're having the side of the capital and the investment. I know you're very well versed on this, but you're having risk capital that is also interested in an impact return. So I think it's kind of all of the elements are kind of aligning for this whole space to grow, and maybe one day not even just be the flavor of entrepreneurship, but really impact all of business or all of entrepreneurship in some way. So. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about impact measurement. This is one of those key areas for where social entrepreneurs and impact investors have really gotten serious about this over the last 10 years, but there's so much more progress to make in terms of trying to figure out how we really measure what we're doing and how the changes we're driving.
Yes, absolutely. I really, from my work, and I'm sure you have a wonderful perspective on this too. I feel like impact measurement is like the most disruptive thing, or one of the most disruptive things, even within the social impact and social entrepreneurship space. Because right now there are many criteria to measure social impact. There are dozens of them. In fact, every impact investor or incubator or they each have their own set of criteria of how they want to measure impact. And it's very interesting because it can be a push or pull kind of thing. If you're working with an impact investor, even if you are a social enterprise that hadn't thought about it, there's a good chance that they're demanding that from you. They want to know how you're measuring impact. But proactively on the side of social entrepreneurs and people engaged in this space, there's a lot of creative work happening on the side of how do we actually measure impact? What are the metrics that are useful? And how do we make that process easier? Because if you're a lean social enterprise, you might be spending like all of your resources on actually doing the work. So measuring the work and reporting the work, you have to find a space within your existing infrastructure to be able to do that. So there are some interesting organizations and platforms and tools that are making it easier, to kind of measure impact. And one of the organizations is SOPAC, that's sopac.com. And there's, we have GIN and IRIS, and we have all of these different measurements and even frameworks out there. But I think this area is ripe for innovative minds and technologies to come in and really make this more standardized, so that just the way that we can look at a bottom line, we can look at an impact measurement and compare apples to apples.
Well, Neetal, I want to just get a couple of insights from you that are a little more personal in nature. You've really become a leader in this space, a role model to a lot of people. Who do you look up to as a role model?
Well, you're catching me on a very an interesting day. It's one day after the 10-year anniversary since my mom passed. So I think maybe she's on my mind a lot today. So I really feel like I look up to her even every day, because I just think of how much she lived her life to the fullest and was very bold about the things that she did. So I think even for me starting this company and just deciding, even though the space is growing, it's still in its, I would call it the adolescence phase. So it's not well worn. So to kind of be committing so much of my time and resources it was a leap of faith even when I started this, and it continues to be. So I think definitely she's one of the people that is part of my company without being here to be here physically with it. So
that's a great tribute to your mom. Now, Neetal, I wonder if as you think about why these issues are important, I think, you and I share an understanding, I think, with most of our viewers, that we can use business for good, and that if we can, we should. I guess what I'm curious about is why this is so important to you personally, that you've now dedicated your life to being a leader in the social entrepreneurship movement.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think growing up, I moved a lot. My dad's a civil engineer, so moved like 20 times growing up. And I've kind of been a jack of all trades, I think. And so that has all, when you're in that role, you're often connecting dots. You're seeing a lot of things and saying, hey, did we think about the way these things are connected? So even though and even with my experience in law school, I went through law school, I'm licensed in Washington, but haven't had a traditional or conventional practice. But instead, that has given me a lens through which to see the law through non-legal, kind of the non-legal perspective as well. So as I've been exploring the space, I see all these points of connection, and I realize that some of this work, that's amazing work, is happening in silos. So I said, what can I do? Like, how can I think of myself not as someone saying, hey, why isn't that being done? Saying, how can I create that? So that's kind of what Innovate Social is, and it's great to feature different programs. Like we'll be talking a little later to feature your program and feature other tools, resources, and actionable ways that people can actually engage in the space. Because I think those connections are going to be the things that catalyze people actually, creating more success stories in social enterprise and actually growing the space as a whole.
Well, Neetal, that's great insight. Now, one last question for you. We ask all of our guests for a bonus tip, an impact hack. What's just something that would help us do more good in the world? What's your impact hack?
Yes, I love this hashtag Go and Do. I tag mostly a lot of the posts.
Oh no, Neetal, I've done a horrible thing. I have turned your microphone off.
Okay.
Try again. Let's see if we can turn your microphone back on. Is it going?
Yes. Can you hear me?
No, it's not working.
Oh.
I am a horrible producer. I'm the worst ever producer. Let's see if I can get this back on. Try one more time.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Still not working.
Hello?
Still not working. Neetal, this is horrible. Is there do you see a way to unmute yourself on your phone there?
Can you hear that?
No, it's not working. Neetal, I'm a horrible person. Can you believe I did this? Okay, listen, Neetal, you've been great. I thank you very much for being here with us today. And I am so sorry for turning your microphone off and not being able to turn it back on. But let me do a couple of things before you go. Let me just tell people where they can find you. Now, you are on the web in a variety of places. And let me just point out some of these. Your Innovate Social is INNOV 8 social.com. So that's your main business website. You're also on Twitter at Neetal Parekh, and that's NEETAL_PAREKH. So people can track you down there. And your podcast is hosted at Innovate Social as well, I think. So, Neetal, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Again, I apologize for turning off your microphone. Can you imagine a stupider thing to do than that? But in any case, we thank you very much for being here. You're a delight to have. We appreciate all of your great tips and insights, and we wish you every success in helping the world find greater ways to use business to solve the world's big problems. And with that, let me just conclude by saying, let's do some good.
At the intersection of financial services and social media, Gate Global Impact, GGI, uses new market infrastructure to facilitate investments in organizations that deliver a societal, environmental, and/or a cause-related benefit in addition to a financial return.
Seed Equity Ventures is a registered broker-dealer with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission and a member of both FINRA and SIPC, providing investment banking services to startups globally. Seed Equity's mission is to find the best and brightest entrepreneurs and connect them with global investors.
Clean Energy Advisors creates investment opportunities in the renewable energy sector that provide clients with predictable income, preservation of capital, and positive impact. Clean Energy Advisors is committed to providing clients with investment opportunities with both market rates of return and measurable impact.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.